What's up, Skirts Up Squad?
Did you just take my line? It's Samantha.
And Melissa.
I'm going to actually tell you guys how it is right now. It was so funny.
We couldn't even make it up. I'm going to do it. I'm going to wear it in public.
And she looks at me and she goes, that's what Jesus is for.
We are about normalizing things that are hard to talk about.
So I was like, deer in headlights, skirts out. But keep your panties on. What's up, Skirts Up Squad? It's Samantha.
And Melissa.
And guess what?
What?
Okay, you've been talking a lot the last couple of episodes about your gym escapades. And don't get too excited. Listen, Linda. Okay. So there was this ad going on Facebook, and it was like, we're looking for a few women to have a free transformation. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, count me in, me. And so I go and I fill it out, and I'm being really stupid in like the questionnaires. It's like, what are your goals to accomplish in this transformation? And like, you know, how do you know you're committed? And so I'm putting stupid shit. I'm like, oh, lose some inches off the waist, lose the little back flappy flaps, like ridiculous things. So anyways, I got chosen. And once I got chosen, I got just to verify, you agree to working out as told 3 times a week and following a diet plan made custom for you. I did not sign up for dieting. I did not know that that was a requirement. So I'm not entirely sure how this is going to go.
That's exciting. And it's really nice when you have somebody else like cheering you on. So it sounds like you're going to have like kind of a coach situation.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess we'll find out. I have an orientation next week on Monday. So
very nice.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so there's my fail. And then I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I have been posting a little more in-depth insights into my journey through FND, functional neurological disorders. So that's been trickling along on my webpage. If you guys are curious about that. And I have a fun workshop coming up for people with functional neurological disorders here in April. So that'll be fun.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, what's your fail?
You know what? That's why.
Tell them your fail.
What?
How's your hair look?
Oh, you're outing me. No, you're right. That's my fail. Oh. Also, right.
No, there.
No, too bad. So basically, I was trying to get my hair lightened. Well, okay. I went and had somebody darken my hair for me, and it was just in a home salon. And this was like months ago, like probably like 6 months ago. And so now I have like a ton of growth, and you can see my roots really bad. So I thought, okay, well, before I have this event that's coming up in March, I want to look halfway decent. So I'm just going to lighten the dark parts to match my roots better. So I went and got like something from the drugstore, and I put it on all over except for on my roots. And then I sat there for 20 minutes, and then I did put a little on my roots for 10 minutes. Nothing took anywhere except for on my roots. And it turns out I had the wrong kind of dye or whatever. I don't know. You can't put color in color. I don't know. I'm not a hairstylist. Anyway, I have since had a consultation, and it's going to cost like a ton of money to get it fixed. But she's going to fix it for me tomorrow morning, because I was like, yeah, luckily there was enough time because the event is next week. And yeah. Anyway, long story short, I now have super, super golden hair around my head, and then super dark hair like underneath. And it looks like I'm going bald in a weird way because the gold looks like my scalp.
Right, show them the picture on Facebook.
Sure.
I am so excited for this episode to come out. DJ makes my whole life every time we talk to him.
He's like such a joy, like super, super like ray of sunshine.
Today we have with us DJ Logory, and he is the creator of Be That Guy. He's got his own podcast, and he's got a program where he helps young men. And I'm being pretty vague because I know that he can explain it way, way, way better than I can. So, hi, DJ.
What's up,
Hi,
guys?
DJ.
Sam,
Hi.
Melissa, how we doing today? Very excited
We-
to get rolling.
We are so excited to talk to you. Like, now I'm going to say Sam is the one who you guys have like collaborated together to get you here on the show. I don't know much about what you do. I have like stalked your socials. It seems like what you do is help young men build confidence. Like, I'm going to ask a lot of questions because this is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, I think it's a very, like when me and my business partner were initially kind of thinking about it, I'm like, confidence is really the deep rooted thing that I think all of these pieces kind of add up to, right? Whether it's accountability, community, discipline, right? Like self-image, right? It's like it all kind of comes like kind of spearheads to, I want to be a confident person, right? Just in general, right? Whether I'm a confident man, confident woman. And so I was, in the beginning of my early 20s, I was struggling with my confidence and kind of my direction. And you don't feel good when you're like, you kind of don't like what you see in the mirror and you're kind of like, what the heck's going on? You're like, I thought I had done what they said I needed to do to be successful and have happiness. And then it all kind of crumbles down and you're like, what the hell's going on? And you kind of get like mad. So so I think a lot of it really boils down to confidence, right? And loving what you see in the mirror.
Wow.
So I feel like women, when they are working on confidence, affirmations is kind of like their first go-to. So do guys use affirmations, or like
Do
how
guys
do you
use affirmations? That's a great question,
like
right? Do guys-
self-affirmations?
right? Like, I am beautiful, I am strong, like in the mirror and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things that I've actually done before is I've created audios of me talking to myself. And so it's something that so every morning when I drive to the gym, I actually play this audio of me as if I was 90 years old.
Really?
And looking back on my life. And so I basically say like, hey, Deej, like, here are some of the things that you did, right? Here's some of the moments when you didn't think it was going to work out. And here's what ended up happening. And so it's kind of like it's like an affirmation on steroids type of thing where I'm
manifestation kind of
right. Like, it's manifestation, right? I'm priming my brain to essentially, one, believe in the things that I want to believe in, the things that I want to actually have happen. And two, start to find the evidence to support the manifestation, right? Which I think is a really important part to changing our beliefs. One of my mentors who I've studied, his name is David Bayer. He has this really cool thing called the belief matrix, where you can essentially state a new belief and then go find evidence in your life that supports the new belief, right? So that's kind of how you change the way that you believe certain things. And so I made this audio to essentially reinforce these new beliefs that I wanted to have about my life. And so it's awesome. Like, it literally brings me to tears almost each morning.
Oh.
Yeah.
So do you tell yourself things that you're going to accomplish, or is it things you've already accomplished?
I say it in a tense that I've already accomplished it, right?
But
so
they
like
have not come yet.
So if I'm the 90-year-old version of me, I'm like, here's what ended up happening, right? You met your dream wife, you spoke on stages, right? You expanded to hundreds of colleges throughout the nation, right? Here's how you did it. Here's what happened, right?
Aww.
Right. So it's just
It's a story.
It really is like a very powerful story to start your day with every single day. Right. And so I get out of the car and I'm like, well, all right, like, let's go have a great day.
Wow.
My life was
that is-
awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, my dog escaped out of his crate. But we're gonna just let him be.
Oliver felt very empowered by DJ's
Right.
story.
Let Oliver just hang
guess
out.
So Oliver was like, he does not need more confidence, actually. Okay, well,
Yeah. Do you want to go fix them?
can I just
Yes.
at least make it so he doesn't go in the back room where the quilts are?
Yes.
Okay, I am so sorry.
You're
This
fine.
is what real
Okay,
podcasting
great.
looks
Take
like,
your
right? Like, this is the live
Right.
podcasting.
Yeah. Yeah. My dogs were driving me insane, so I put them in their kennels right before we recorded.
Did one of your dogs? No, was it your daughter? Didn't one? It was.
There
your
was a
daughter?
dog and a daughter.
And a daughter. There was both of them, right?
A kid stripping and a dog being old. I don't.
Yes, I remember that. I remember
This
that.
is Oliver.
There he is.
All right, buddy. All right.
Which
we're gonna let you just
actually,
be.
I had. It's like so irrelevant.
What?
We were talking about the animals like being out of control. And the day after that recording, I went to the hot tub with the toddler, and the kittens came outside with me, and I was like, hey, Nora, like, this isn't going to happen. But if it does, if a cat jumps into the hot tub, you go far away from me. Okay. And I'm going to get the cat. And then literally 5 minutes later, I'm sitting here talking to Nora, and a cat flies over my shoulder.
Oh no!
Into the hot tub? Oh my God.
Yeah, it was. These animals are out of control.
Oh my God. Okay, I am so sorry, DJ. That was
No, you're
very.
good, Melissa. No problem.
Thank you. You're
This
Okay.
this makes it authentic. I like the authenticity. This is cool.
So he was telling us about how he tells himself the story of his life as a
I
90-year-old man.
freaking love that because you're listening to it as if it's already happened.
Yeah.
You're hearing it like it's fact. And so your mind is gonna
Mhm.
want to like back that up and be like, this is true. How do I make this true or keep it true? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And part of the audio is I actually will say like, hey, like you're gonna have some doubts here, right? Here's where it's gonna
Okay.
get a little hard. So it's not just like because I think a lot of times when people say like affirmations or manifestation, they think about like butterflies and rainbows and everything's positive
Mhm.
and like it's gonna be great. Yet I think there's a lot of value to being like, here's where you're gonna think it's not gonna work. Like here's where
Right.
here's where the doubt's gonna come in. And I like doing that just because it makes me a little bit more aware of like the obstacles. And so when I do start to possibly judge myself, I'm like, there's the judge, right? There's the judgment of it.
Also like it because it kind of gives you permission to like have those doubts. It's okay. You're gonna
Yeah.
have some doubts.
Mhm.
You know, these things like, and it's gonna take work and you're gonna have to do this to get over it. And
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
I don't think if you have doubts in the stuff that you're doing, I don't think you're pushing yourself hard enough, right? I think you have to have some, I think you have to have some friction and some, ooh, that's like a little scary, right? That's
An
making-
old
You're
man
right.
once told me that if you're not doing something that scares the shit out of you once a day, then you're not doing something right.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right. I heard a guy say if you don't piss anybody off by noon, you're not doing enough.
Oh.
So like I like that stuff, right? Like it's I mean I'm a big proponent of, and I don't know like, you know, religious beliefs, what you guys believe in and things like that, but like I like the idea of humans. I've been thinking a lot about this recently. Humans can be beaten very easily. Right? Like if you think about like how long can we go without oxygen and air? Like,
Yeah.
not that
Right.
long, right? Not
Right.
like not that long, right? We can actually like, not to get too grim, like we can be killed very easily. Right.
Right.
So I think when you think, and I remember when I read the book Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, he talked about how when you realize that death is a part of life, you actually, I think, start to live more because you start to remember that like eventually we're not going to be here one day and we're probably going to be forgotten on a long enough time horizon. So like, why not just go do the things you want to do now, love the people you want to love, be who you want to be, shoot for the stars, land on the moon. Like, I think that stuff's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Here's
is-
a
that's
second man
beautiful.
that has brought up Matthew McConaughey's book and specifically kind of that part.
Yeah.
Really?
So that's, yeah. So that's interesting that that's something that really, really sticks with you guys. And DJ, have you heard of neuroplasticity?
Oh yeah. Changing of I
Yeah.
literally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
That's like
yeah.
what you're explaining. It's
Yeah.
like what I'm hearing is that you're programming your brain. Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Oh yeah.
When-
I think we can program our brain for a lot of things, right? Hopefully we're programming it for the right things.
take
That's
over the
actually a good
world.
point.
That is
Yeah.
on my book.
Yep.
Okay, so you said that you were struggling with confidence in your early 20s, and I'm just gonna shamelessly bring up, like, is that because you had headgear for so long and you had to fix your face? Like, I just
She
All
just
right,
brought it
beautiful.
all forward.
Let's get into the trauma.
You're welcome.
Here we go. So no, the headgear was around like probably second or third grade.
Okay.
Which
Oh,
yeah,
you're
so
a baby.
I was a baby, and it was like a really tough time because during that time I'd had a really nasty injury to like my left elbow, which is a big reason, kind of like it put me on a path to kind of honestly some of the stuff that I do today. And I had a couple other things that was like, second to third grade was a tough couple of years for Deej. And I remember I had this headgear because I had a really bad underbite. So if you like kind of imagine what like a bulldog looks like, that's literally what my smile looked like. And so I had to wear this headgear where it essentially pulled my top jaw out so that it came over my bottom jaw. And I had this retainer in my mouth that basically had these little hooks, and I had to put this rubber band on it and then like literally clip it onto this thing that came around my face. And I had to wear it like it was literally like a helmet almost that I had to wear.
Wow. How often?
So I remember I had to wear it to bed each night because it was good because I could get like 8 hours of wearing it while nobody saw me essentially.
Yeah.
But the hard part was it would get caught in my sheets. Like it was horrible. So my mom, I like thank God I had my mom there because she like helped me feel better about myself and like kind of helped me through it. And I honestly remember wearing it to school just a couple of times, but I remember being like, I don't want to wear it to school. Like, I just don't want my friends and kids in the class seeing it because I knew that it wasn't going to be good. And it was such a tough thing for me that I remember ripping the retainer out of my mouth, like halfway through I was supposed to like wear this thing because I hated it so much. And I literally got it out of my mouth and it was like super bloody and graphic. And I had to go to the nurse's office. My mom actually had to come in and they had to bring me back to the dentist that day and literally redo the whole thing.
Wow.
And so it was like, I actually, ironically, I won Best Smile my senior year of high school. And
That's so sweet.
and my quote was, I wore headgear when I was little. And
That's
everybody thought it was
adorable.
like this like funny joke. And I'm like, you guys have no idea how hard I worked with it.
I feel like your dad was probably like, he better win Best Smile. That was
Yeah,
expensive.
exactly, right? We paid a lot of money for that thing.
Just kidding. I don't know your dad.
We
definitely
did tell
said
him to fix his face.
He definitely probably said, yeah, he did. My father did. Yeah, hopefully he listens to this once it's released. He was like, yeah, we got to fix this kid's face. It's a little jacked up.
Thank you, Dad. Actually, that's so cool.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
DJ and I were having our little pre-record conversation, Nora, the 4-year-old, she was standing behind us, and I don't know what, she actually has one of those bites where her bottom jaw comes out further than her top teeth, and she was just over here like twirling, and she's taking her clothes off, and they're like, what are you doing? Oh, we're gonna go now.
Nora was having some fun.
Yeah, she was having a blast.
Nora is so much fun.
Redheaded monster. Melissa, so when I did the pre-intercording with DJ, it was really cool because one of the things that we talked about is how, you know, how everything that I've been working on, it's like I don't really have an educational background. He doesn't either necessarily for like what he's doing, and he's able to speak up for himself and land these like really big deals.
Nice. So like, yeah, tell us like how that actually started because yeah, sure. We all see that people need more confidence and like, but what like sparked you to be like, I can do something about this?
Yeah, it's a great question because I just kind of started testing things because I think one of the big proponents to change is pain, right? And so if we're in enough pain, we'll make a change, right? And so I was in my early 20s, I'd lost a job that I really loved, and I kind of felt like these beliefs about me being, so I have these two stories, and I won't share all of them because it's a kind of a lot to build up to, but basically I had these two beliefs about myself that I was dumb and I was weak. And I established those when I was really little. And so my whole life, I kind of tried to do anything I needed to do to disprove those beliefs through academics, athletics, being a captain of teams, to basically say, all right, I'm not that person who I thought I am. I'm this strong, confident, disciplined guy. And in my early 20s, I kind of lost a lot of that evidence because I thought I had my life figured out, and then it totally got shifted. And so I was struggling to kind of get back on track. And what had happened was an old basketball coach of mine named Scott Gibbs saw me one day at my St. John Fisher College weight room, in my college weight room, came up to me, asked me how I was doing. And for like the first time in a while, I was just like brutally honest with him. I was like, I'm a mess. I was like, I could actually use some help right now. And I always like to say that because I encourage young men who might not feel like they're doing good and they don't want to talk about it to talk to, whether it's a coach. And I know it's tough to do it to parents sometimes because like I didn't want to tell my parents that I was struggling because I didn't want them to think that they were bad parents. and they had
Sure.
raised a weak son, right? So I felt more comfortable to do with Scott. So I always tell guys, and I tell parents, I'm like, listen, if you're struggling with your son, have a coach, have a teacher, have one of your son's buddies' dads, ask him just how he's doing, right? And like have him be honest, because that might just be what he needs, is like a separation from that first level of parental emotional connection. Because when Scott said that, I like had no hesitation. I was like, you know what, I could be myself right now, and this is what I might need. And so I just told him, I was like, I need some help. I was like, I just kind of feel like I'm going down a path that I really don't believe in, and I need to get back to the confident, disciplined DJ. And so he started that night. He actually sat with me for like 3 hours, and he
Wow.
literally just was like, talk. And I just talked, and I just got it all out, and it felt so good. And it was the best I'd felt in like the last like 6 months. And so for the next
What a
3
good
years,
guy.
yeah, incredible guy. He's changed my life. He might have honestly saved my life in all regards. And so we started meeting on a week to week basis. We'd meet maybe 2-3 times a week at Starbucks in his house, and he literally started coaching me. So he was an executive coach, and he started coaching me through some of my challenges and some of my confidence and habits. And during that time, I attended a Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi summit. It was like a mastermind summit. It was all virtual. And I remember too, the day that I did it, it was in August of, I think it was like 2020 or 2021. It might have been around when COVID had hit. And all of my buddies were going to the bay to go on the boats. And I was staying in, attending this seminar. And I remember like that decision was such a big little shift for me, where it's like, wow, like I'm really making some big choices right here as a 24-year-old guy, 23-year-old guy, however old I was. Like, I must be pretty serious about the pain I'm in and the things that I'm willing to change. And so Tony Robbins, in that seminar, he said something super simple. He just said, readers are leaders. And he said, everybody should read for, I think, a minimum of 15 minutes a day, something like that. And so right then I bought a calendar. I bought a calendar on Amazon, and I hung it up on my whiteboard, and I said, I'm going to read for 365 days in a row, a minimum of 30 minutes a day. And I don't even think I had a book in my house. And so I just texted one of my buddies who I really believed in, one of my best friends. I'm like, hey, do you recommend like a book that I read? And he was like, yeah, he's like, here's a couple that I would read. And during the time I started to listen to more podcasts. And one of the guys I was listening to was Mark Devine. He was an ex-Navy SEAL.
Okay.
And he had on this, I believe his name was Jason Van Camp, and he wrote this book, Deliberate Discomfort, which is now one of my most favorite books ever. And it's written by a bunch of Army Rangers, Green Beret, Navy SEALs, just some really badass humans of this world. And they talk about the importance of intentionally making yourself uncomfortable and what it does for you. And so I bought that book and I started to read it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this 30 minutes a day, and I'm just going to literally X out when I do it. And so I had this calendar, and every day I started doing this, and I was like, you know what? I want to start tracking my exercise too. And then I was like, I want to start tracking the time I go to bed at 9 p.m. And then I want to track 5 a.m. wake up. And then I want to track 250 grams of protein a day. And so I literally, after like 3 months, I had like 6 or 7 things that I was tracking. And I had this calendar of just evidence that I was just doing what I said I was going to do. And so one of the things that we work on, like with the guys with, and Sam, I can't remember if I shared this with you, but this is our habit calendar. And so we built this because of essentially the way that I had kind of gotten myself out of my own rut. And so I was just tracking all of these things on this calendar. And like I said earlier, right, with that belief matrix, we can change our beliefs by, going and finding the evidence. Mm-hmm. If you have just tons of evidence, visual evidence, this is why I always say make your goals visual and make your habits visual. If I had all this visual evidence that I was following through my commitments, I was doing what I said I was going to do, amongst all the distractions that life had to throw at me, it started to change what I thought about myself, right? Like
this is incredible, because literally Sam and I had this conversation last Monday.
I think it was that day too, where he was like talking to me, and I was like, oh, okay. That just like really like hit my heart, because, I'm trying to do these big things and I like don't feel smart enough. And okay, he's right. Like if I track that, like, I did this amount of time of research and this, a day, like I've done what I need, can do. And that will stack up to being
I was just thinking about the
Mhm.
fact that you had a calendar last year and
Oh.
you were like tracking things. Well, so it was kind of like prompts. It had given her prompts, like,
Mhm.
what do you want to accomplish? Get like 100 goals or whatnot. And she had written down as many as she could or whatnot. And then I guess you set it aside and you came back to it a year later and realized that even though you didn't physically like do the calendar all year and like open it up and look at it, you realized that having written down it even once, it must have done something because you had accomplished some of those things. Like it's like
Mhm.
it sparked something in you.
Yeah.
And I
thought that
wouldn't
was
have
really-
even known if I didn't write it down.
That,
That's
yes.
that's nothing that would have crossed my mind. So
Yeah. It's something that my father actually, I think, instilled in me when I was in about maybe 6th or 7th grade. And I actually had to ask him about this because I think I was raised in a very strict household with a lot of hard skills and a lot of soft skills. So I like to say, like, it was, hey, we expect you to work hard and we're also going to love the hell out of you, right? Like
That's
that was
nice.
kind of the way that I was raised. And I remember around 6th, 7th grade, I told my father that like I wanted to get real serious about like exercise and real serious about school. And he said, first, I need you to, he said, if you really want to stop floundering, he said, you need to start writing it down. And he said, you need to
Okay.
show me. And he said, so you first need to define essentially what it is that you want. And then you need to show me the plan or your goal, your idea of what you're going to do to achieve it. And then most importantly, and then this is where I think the magic of the calendar comes in. He said, how are you going to measure it? Right. So how are you going to measure that you're actually making reasonable progress over measurable progress over reasonable time? And so I was like, I want to, be a captain of this team. I want to have this GPA. I want to have this, I want to weigh this much, right? I want to have this bench press, right? Whatever they were. And so I remember like starting to, and when I was in 7th grade, I had workout journals. And so I would write down all the reps, all the workouts, all the weights. And I would actually show my dad and be like, hey, look, I went up in this weight. And he'd be like, beautiful. He's like, what are we thinking for next month? And so he was always so supportive of the way that I was trying to measure these things. And then I remember I had an agenda. An agenda, I would write down my homework, my goals, and this and that. And I still to this day use a paper agenda, which I'm actually thinking about making a requirement for all of the guys to go through our program to use not only the paper calendar, but also the paper agenda, because electronics, we can get lost in them, right? So if you make things very physical, right, that's why I think whiteboards and writing things down is so valuable, because a notification isn't going to cover it up, right? So, so I started doing that at a young age, and I did that all through high school and through college. And it's super interesting that the time that I stopped doing it was towards the end of my college career and in those early 20s. And that's when I started to feel the lack of confidence,
Ah.
lack of
Lost.
discipline. And so it was kind of like, I thought I had figured it out, right? Like, it's like, oh, I got life, right? I was at the top of the world, right? I had done really good in college, academics, athletics. It's like, I don't need to do the tracking. I don't need to do it anymore. And then I stopped doing it, and it like all just kind of went out of whack. And that was when I actually needed the help. And I remember like when Tony Robbins said that, I'm like, hey, like, why don't I just make this super simple and buy a calendar and just track all the things? And that's ultimately what really got me back on track.
So you took the Tony Robbins course or summit and you were talking with your coach. How did you decide to start like that you can like help other people? And what was your first step in that towards that?
So what we started doing, so in around 2020, my business partner and I, so Scott and I, what we ended up doing is at the end of like those 3 years of
Oh,
meetings.
you became your business partner?
Yeah. So I was like, hey, what if we started a business together? And he's like, I love the idea. He's like, what do we want to call it? What do we want to do? And so he ended up giving it the name Acres of Diamonds because of a personal story that he had with this. It's actually a real story, Acres of Diamonds. And so what we started doing was we created this 8-week mental fitness and emotional intelligence course. And we started partnering with businesses in Rochester, New York, where we were both living at the time. And that sounds much easier said than done. I mean, that took me many years of handwritten letters, reach outs, finding the right people. Like the entrepreneurship DJ had kind of fully started.
How long was it before you landed that grocery store?
The grocery store, Wegmans, I would probably say I would say close to maybe a year and a half to 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, think about it, right? I was a 24-year-old guy. I was a 24, 25-year-old guy saying, "Hey, I can help all of your employees with their mental fitness." It's like,
Okay, I
sure
missed
you
that
can.
part in our first conversation, and that helps because I was like, wait, he just went into a grocery store and like landed his first deal. So why can't I just walk in and be like, hey,
Well,
I'm your person.
so the way that it actually happened was and this is going to date me a little bit. I was writing handwritten letters to all of these businesses within Rochester. I literally went online and I said, who are the top 10 biggest businesses within Rochester, New York? And I wrote a handwritten letter that was like 2 pages long for each one. And I had this little diamond. It was like a plastic diamond. And I wanted to send them this letter with this plastic diamond. So they'd be like, oh, like this is this cool little diamond and this handwritten letter. Like, wow, what an interesting, different type of thing than just an email or a phone call. I put all of these letters in their own individual packages and then the diamond in the package as well. And I put it in the mail thinking that it could just be sent through the mail. But the funny thing was the diamond was too big to be sent through the mail, and it ripped all of the letters.
No.
And then they sent them all back to me. So not only did they destroy all of the letters, but nobody actually got the letter that I needed to send.
Oh, no.
And that took me like multiple weeks to do. And so I remember when that came back, there was like a couple moments where I was like, maybe this isn't for me. Like maybe I should stop with this whole entrepreneurship thing. Like that was such a kick to the pants. Like that really hurt. And so what ended up happening was during COVID had hit in 2020 of March, and one of my friends, her family owned a restaurant, and they had to shut it down. And I'm not sure if you guys remember, but Barstool Sports had that COVID relief. It was like a grant or like a scholarship. Basically, businesses could apply to receive money from Barstool to keep their businesses afloat during COVID.
Okay.
And so she applied, and Barstool accepted her application. And she made this really cool post about it. And I reached out to her. I was like, hey, if you need anything with getting things up and running or support or whatever, I'm like, I love what you're doing, like with keeping your family's business afloat. And she's like, actually, I could use some help with this project I'm working on and some graphic design stuff. And I'm like, sweet. So we met and we started talking, and I'm like, hey, by the way, like, and she worked at Wegmans. She worked as like a lower level, like an employee at Wegmans. And I'm like, hey, by the way, I've been trying to get in touch with Wegmans for like 6 months. I'm like, who do I need to get in touch with? And she's like, my aunt is the head of HR. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, can you give me your email? I was like, can you give me her address? I was like, I want to send her something. And so she gave me her email, and she literally like texted her that day. She's like, hey, my friend DJ is going to shoot you an email. Please respond to it. She responded to it, and we met with her, and the woman is an incredible human being. Her name is Lindsay Bennett. She's one of my role models. She's an absolute superstar of this world. And we met with her, and she was so cool. And I was like, do you want to test out this 8-week program that we've built? She's like, I would love to test it out. And she's like, maybe we could bring this to Wegmans to some capacity. And I'm like, yes, like that would be huge. So we literally ran a test group of maybe 4 or 5 people for the next 8 weeks. And at the end of those 8 weeks, she was like, this was phenomenal. She's like, we need all of the people at Wegmans to do this. And I was like, yes, like, let's do that. And so there's still a lot of process to actually get into these businesses and what it looks like. Yet over the next probably 4 to 5 months, we started meeting with the right people. I explained how we do this, and we landed, I think we did 2 test pilot groups of 12 and 12 people. So 24 people. Scott ran the session. I was the co-facilitator, and we did that then throughout all of, I think, 2021-ish. And by the end of 2021, I started running these groups by myself. And so I was 25 years old, and I was running these mental fitness groups with these managers and people who were husbands, fathers, wives, right? It was incredible. And so I always started every session with, the majority of people I was working with were in their late 30s to early 60s, and I was 25. And so I'm like, yeah, there's probably going to be some skeptical people who are like, what can this guy teach me? And I would say, hey, listen, everybody, I want to address the elephant in the room here, right? I'm 25 years old, and I'm never going to tell you things that, I'm never going to speak out of turn, right? I'm only going to talk about things that I've experienced, things that I believe in. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a therapist and a counselor and I'm going to make you this incredible human. I said, I'm going to listen to you. I'm not going to judge you, and let's get better together. And they were all like, okay, like, let's do it. And they bought in, And I did that throughout my 20s, and it actually kind of led to be that guy. But I'll pause for now, and that's essentially how it all happened.
Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. I feel like one of the biggest things that and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm hearing that one of the biggest things is you're not just teaching like how to have confidence or change your beliefs, but you're teaching it like, well, you're teaching that it has to happen through action.
Yeah, I don't think we can think our way into confidence. I think we ultimately
Yeah.
have to do
Mhm.
something about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think a lot of people get afraid of the action, and typically one of that book that I mentioned, Deliberate Discomfort by Jason Van Camp, he has an incredible quote in it that said, "Fear killed more dreams than failure ever did." And
Mm.
so I think fear is the thing that we're actually afraid of. Like, if you fail, you're just kind of like, darn, I wish that didn't happen, right? And failure is ultimately just a result you didn't want.
Yeah.
Right. So we get results we don't want all the time, right? And
Oh,
then,
yeah.
and I think we give it this nasty label of failure. And essentially, if you look at the most successful people in the world, they probably have way more failures than successes, right? Like that's the
Oh,
price,
100%.
right?
You
Yeah,
have to, because you
Mhm.
can't have a success without having had tried
Exactly, right? So,
multiple different pathways to
oh,
get there.
yeah, so go feel the failure, right? The fear is typically just ideas in our head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm. That is very true. One of the things I have a really hard time with when I'm like trying to be like, this is my goal, this is how I'm going to get there, and this is what I want to see, is I feel like during the day I have all these great ideas and I know what I want, and then when it comes to writing it down so I can start tracking it, I totally forget, and I'm like, what am I even doing? And I just want to like throw it away. So how do you get through that, or you just walk people through each step?
So one of the strategies that we use is I like to call it bumpers, right? So if you think about like in bowling, right, when we put the bumpers up, what does that give you a higher chance of doing? Right, hitting the pins essentially.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. I think I've only seen one time one of my buddies actually miss all of the pins with bumpers. And
Yeah, I definitely have gotten a gutter ball with a bumper.
like I think it's more impressive to get a gutter ball with bumpers than to actually hit the pins. So maybe there's a little space you can slide through this, but I like to use this term bumpers because one of the things that I've realized, and this was, I gave a lot of credit to this to my father, was he said, write these things down so that you can see them. He said, we're going to forget the majority of the things that we want to do.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a big key to being consistent and accountable and disciplined and all of those things, which essentially helps with their confidence, is actually just remembering the things that I kind of wanted to do. And so one of the things that we will talk to guys with is, let's say we're building an exercise routine with a guy and he's never worked out before in his life. And all he wants to do is go for a 1 mile walk 3 days a week, right? We're just going to start off super small. And so I'll say, all right, do you have walking or do you have running shoes? Like what shoes do you want to use? And he's like, yeah, I got these basketball shoes that I can use. Great. Put the basketball shoes at the bed of your foot. So when you, or the foot of your bed. So when you literally get out of the bed, you literally trip over your shoes. All right. And then I'll say, what time are you planning on waking up? And typically the sleep habit is the week after the exercise one. So we'll actually kind of pair these together. And he'll say, I'm waking up at 7. And we're going to say, great. We're going to set a first alarm at 7:15 to go for a 1 mile walk. And then I'll say, do you think that you're going to hit that? And they'll be like, yeah. And we'll say, let's set a backup one at 7:45 just in case you don't. And then they'll be like, okay. And I'll say, like, and let's do one more at 8:30 just to really hammer it home. And so then these guys almost get annoyed with how many reminders they have, right? So it actually becomes harder not to do the thing, right? And so I'm testing, I test all these different bumpers with the guys, and I talk to them about, hey, what do you think you need right now to do this, right? To actually follow through with this. I remember one of the young men, and I can't remember if I shared this with you, Sam, but we had this one group where one of the young men was struggling to hit a morning routine. He wanted to wake up, exercise, drink a protein shake, and read 15 minutes of his book. That was his goal. And he was struggling to do it. And one of the other guys in the group said, hey, can I have one of my growth commitments? So we do a 3+1. We have reading, exercise, sleep, and then there's a growth commitments, and those change each week. He said, hey, could one of my growth commitments be to text you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m. to remember to do that? And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, let's set this up. So one of his growth commitments became to text this other guy Monday, Wednesday, and Friday every morning at 7 a.m. And he set the reminders. He actually tracked it on his calendar. And then this guy was then following through on his morning routines. And so we came back the next week and I was like, how'd you do? And he's like, I hit 2 out of 3. And I'm like, all right. I was like, that's awesome. That's some improvement. So then I said, can I text you? So then we started hammering him. We set alarms on his phone and then he hit all of them. Right. So I think it's about remembering and setting up those bumpers to help basically create an environment that reinforces the behavior that you want, which is going to give you the result that you want.
Wow.
Ooh,
So, like-
reinforcing.
Reinforce it. Yeah.
Do you do like prizes? Like if you hit your goals at the end of the week, you get like whatever.
So you know what's funny is we actually kind of do the opposite of prizes. So like one of the guys who was struggling with one thing. I couldn't remember what it was, but I basically said, hey, I said, do you want to create a punishment for every commitment you miss? And he's like, yes. He's like, I do. He's like, every commitment I miss, I owe you $5. And I'm like, really? I'm like, you want to commit to that? I'm like, I'm going to type that on your calendar. Like once we type it on the calendar and I send it, it's official. And so he's like, yeah, I'm going to commit to that. And I said, all right. I said, here's what I'll do though. If you hit a 75% follow through rate at the end of the month, I'll give you all your money back. And he's like, okay, right. So it's incentive based habit building at that point. Right. So this is things you can do just with your friends, just with your family. Right. I've read a ton of books on habits where accountability outside of you is so big. That's why we try to do our stuff in smaller groups or in communities. Right. But creating a financial pain or even like you have to make a post about something you don't believe in, right? Like I've heard really interesting things that basically that keep you into the behavior that you want. And so this young man, he ended up missing maybe a couple more commitments throughout the month. And we did his final FTR, and the FTR is essentially how well he follows through on all of his commitments throughout the month. We have a numerical formula that we actually have with all the guys. He had a 75.1% follow through rate. So he made it by 0.1, and he was and all the group was like, oh my gosh. And so I said, all right, I said, for next month, I said, you got to get above 80. And he's like, all right. So he's still on his financial penalty of $5 for every missed commitment, but now it's at 80%, right? So that's essentially some of the strategies we'll use with the guys.
That is so interesting. I was wondering about the outside commitment or the outside like accountability, because there's a part of me that's like, well, I can't make my issues somebody else. I don't want somebody else's problem, right? It's not their job to always check up on me. But then again, at the same time, it seems like it can be really helpful. My friend Miriam and I were thinking like, okay, we want to start like eating better or working out. And we thought, okay, well, let's do a group text. And I was inviting my other friend to join us, and he was like, yeah, I can't see myself texting like, oh, today I ate blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, when you say it like that, yeah, but the truth is, it's because it's such a vulnerable thing to do. And I think being vulnerable is part of it, right? Like, I don't know. I have a lot of things that I just throw at you with that. But what do you think about, tell us more, outside accountability?
I think one of the things that came up for me when you were saying that was, is there a better word than problem?
Okay.
Right. So like you said, like, hey, like I don't want them to try and keep me accountable with my problem.
Yeah.
Right. What if there was a better word where it's like our goals, right? Hey, could you keep me accountable with our goals, right? Could you keep me accountable with what we're all trying to do together? Because one of the things that we do is we do a group follow through rate. So at the end of the month, your success actually now determines our group success, right? So like, I want you to follow through on your goals too. And I heard this really cool quote that said, remember, part of my dream is seeing your dream come true as well.
I love that.
Right. Like, and my
Sam,
buddy sent it to me.
Us.
Right.
I'll
My
describe
buddy sent it
something.
to me, and I was like, I almost had a tear come down my eye. I was like, dude, bro. I was like, bro, you're gonna drop that hammer on me on a Tuesday morning right now. I was like, man, hope you had a great weekend, dude. Freaking love it. Right. He just like randomly sent it to me, and I read that, and I was like, oh man, like that is right. Like, so I try to instill that in a lot of the guys where it's like, listen, guys, like, I want us all to do this together, right? Like this is a group thing. And even if it's just me and another guy, right? So it's just essentially two guys, I will say like, we're doing this together, right? Like I want this to be a joint accountability. And I think it kind of taps into our inherent tribalness, as I think, especially as men, like when it comes to like, you get a group of men together who are going towards the same goal, like that's a pretty powerful force. Right. So that's essentially, I think, finding the right people, right, using the right language and going towards the same thing. And then I think rewarding yourself at the end, I think is kind of cool too. That's something that I'm still trying to figure out, like what would be a nice reward if guys did hit a certain percentage and things like that, because we do have some guys who do a really good job, and they're doing it just for themselves, which I kind of like, as well as like the reward, where it's like, you shouldn't need to go have a cheap meal or whatever. It's like, just be happy with what you're doing for yourself right now.
Yeah.
Right? And the guys that you're keeping accountable.
Yeah,
That's interesting, because I was thinking like, oh, so what if we were to instill like measurable marks that we could then measure like how we're doing as a threesome or a team. Like, okay, so I didn't get up and hit my goal today, but you did. And so the next day I'm going to feel a little bit more like, okay, you know what? It's my turn to carry the team a little bit. I don't know. I feel like that gives you some incentive.
I think that's a very valid point.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of value too in not letting other people influence your decision-making process.
Like, that is true.
Right. And so it's kind of like, and this is actually, I was thinking a lot about this because I'm not sure if you guys are Jake Paul fans or not, if you like him or don't like him.
Who is Jake Paul?
You don't know Jake Paul? Jake Paul is a YouTube content creator guy, influencer, and he's into boxing, right? And so he has these really valuable boxing matches, and he's very obnoxious in your face. He knows how to get you to watch, essentially. He knows how to get you to watch. And he had this picture that he posted that was of all of this money on a private jet, and he had like guns and all, and he was throwing it in your face of like how successful he is financially with all the stuff he's doing. And the comments on the photo were horrific, like really, really negative. Hey, this is not what a man is today, and all of this, and just really bad. And I looked at it and I said, who the hell cares what he's doing? Like, that's honestly the first thing that came into my head. And I think we have so many more opinions about other people's lives than we do about our own.
Fair.
And so I think at some point we have to, right? So like back to your point, Melissa, about like, hey, like she missed her workout yesterday. It's like, okay, got it. She missed her workout, right? I can't control her. I can't lift the weights for her. Yet I have to also make sure that I'm following through with the things that are important for me. Like I have to make sure that I'm good, right? We've all heard we can't pour from an empty cup. I think that term is abused so much, yet I think it makes total sense. Like I have to make sure that I'm good. And so I think, shifting our focus from, hey, how is everybody else doing? What is everybody else doing? Are they doing good? To what about me? Like, am I showing up the way that I need to show up for not only myself, but also my family, my friends, right? Am I doing the things that I say I'm going to do? Would I trust myself? I heard Chris Williamson, who is a podcaster, Modern Wisdom, one of my favorite podcasts. He said, if people were to watch your life as a movie, what would they be screaming at the screen for?
Interesting.
He said, leave the relationship, quit the job. Like, it's obvious, right? It's right there, right? And I love that perspective, right? Because we're in our own life, we're in our own brain, right? Melissa can see my blind spots. I can see Sam's blind spots, and Sam can see Melissa's blind spots, but we can't see our own, right? That's why coaching is so valuable, right? And so I often think about all the time, if my family and the people who I really cared about were watching my life as a movie, would they be proud? Right? But would they be happy of the person that I am, right? When I do want to sleep in on those days, and my father says, really, you're gonna just cover up and be right and be comfy. Or I think about one of my buddies who sent me a quote once that said, we're so much more than people who can sleep in, right? Or something like that, right? Like I think about those things. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I need to wake up not only for myself, but also I do want to, make them proud too.
Two things you said that are kind of interesting is on last Monday, after we talked, Melissa and I got together and we talked, and I also brought up the empty cup to her. She's talking about things that she's struggling with and needs to figure it out. And I brought up, you've been operating off of an empty cup and giving everyone else every bit of drop that you have. And so that's what you're operating off of. And And there was something that we were talking about, and I was like, no, that's also thinking about other people and doing it for other people. And then you just reminded us and brought it back again that when she's like, oh, I have to lift her up because she was behind yesterday, so now it's on me to do it. And it's that same mindset. It sounds like Melissa is
You're right.
trying
It's
to find a way to think
much
about
easier.
you.
Yeah, it's so much easier to think about other people. Like, how can I help them? And yeah, interesting. You're right.
So, Melissa, there is a our corporate program, the corporate program that we built for like Wegmans and some of those large organizations. We partnered with a company called Positive Intelligence.
Okay.
And Sam, I think we were talking a little bit of, I mentioned this in our pre-interview discussion, but they have built a really cool curriculum. It's essentially like a 6-week mental fitness program that's run through an app. And so it's self-driven, yet what we did is we took that program and we kind of put it on steroids, took a lot of our ideas, made it 8 weeks, and then used a lot of their frameworks because they're all about mental fitness and understanding how basically thoughts are created, right? And we can basically change the way that we respond to things by choosing different responses, essentially. And so one of the things that they do is they have this accomplice saboteur assessment. And so not to get too deep into the weeds, basically saboteurs are these survival mechanisms that we've adopted in childhood. And basically they were things that we adopted in order to survive as a child. So we literally didn't know any better. And typically these are handed down from our parents, right? The way that they were raised. And it's kind of like your parents are going to mess you up in some way, right? It's like, it's just going to happen. And so you take this assessment and there's 9 different ways that we self-sabotage. And one of the ways is called a pleaser. And these are people, typically pleasers are nurses or they're teachers.
Okay.
And teachers are making sure that they are giving back to their students. Nurses are literally keeping people alive, right? And so
it's hilarious because those are the 2 things I was going to school for. I dropped out of nursing to become a teacher. Anyway.
Well, I literally saw it so many different times. Like people be like, I'm a pleaser. I'm like, are you a nurse or a teacher? And they're like, I'm a teacher. And I'm like, yeah, I saw that. Right. So I see a lot of, and typically it's women, honestly, who are pleasers because they want to, I don't know, be loved, be caring, be nurturing. I don't essentially know what it is. But pleaser might be one of your accomplice saboteurs. I can actually send you the assessment. It's
That's
completely
really
free.
neat.
You can go through it. I'm a hyper rational, which is 100% true because my father is the king of the hyper rationals. He said there's right ways to do things and there's wrong ways to do things. And I never thought there was a gray area. And so I kind of think feelings are fleeting, just go by the book. And I've learned that that's totally wrong, right? And whenever those thoughts kind of come up in my head, I know it's my hyper rational is essentially lying to me and I'm choosing to believe it so I can choose to go somewhere else. Right.
Gotcha.
So that's where the mental fitness kind of comes into play.
That's
Ooh,
probably
love to
what
see
I
that.
am because Melissa's always got to be like, Samantha, it's not left or right. Like there ain't these center. And I'm like, oh,
It's
you're
really
right, you're
cool.
right.
There's controller, there's stickler, there's hyper vigilant. Victim is another one where everybody
I see that
is
sometimes.
attacking them and
Yeah.
and I like the saying look in the mirror versus out the window type of thing.
Yeah.
It's looking at yourself. So yeah, there's a ton of really cool stuff.
What was the name of that app? Or
So it's called Positive Intelligence.
That's
and
okay.
Shirzad Shamin is the individual who created it. He was a Stanford lecturer. I believe he was a neuroscientist or something within the neural field, but he created it. And then we found it in 2020. I went through it individually. And then I was like, this would be so much cooler if we did this in a group. And then we started doing it in a group. And that's actually what built our first mental fitness program that we're now partnering with businesses with.
okay. Wow.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah. I'd like to see it. I'm going to look it up.
What's really interesting is a lot of what you're saying is what I do through hypnotherapy. So when you said that you think about like what would the movie be called to answer this question or whatever, like when you're in hypnosis, you're asking your subconscious basically like we've looked at the challenges that gave us this limited belief because like you said, this minorest thing that your parent did or said like impacts what the belief is that gets embedded in you. And then you ask the subconscious mind, okay, I'm not seeing the picture. So if this was a movie and everything that we just looked at, what would it be called? And then the subconscious mind will help you come up with, the pleaser or, something like that. And then it's like, oh, okay, that's what's been holding me back. And then we'll reframe it. So it's kind of funny when you hear different ways to do that. You're doing it without hypnosis.
One of the parts, and this might connect a little bit to the hypnosis, is part of the program. And we're actually starting literally in 2 days. We're doing our mental fitness program with young men. So I'm testing. I mean, we've run so many programs with basically moms, dads, and older individuals who are in like the corporate world. Now we're running it with 18, 19, and 20-year-olds.
Nice.
So, and they're all guys. So I'm like very interested to see kind of the way that they perceive this material. But one of the things that connects to hypnotherapy is they have these little exercises called PQ reps.
Okay.
And these are essentially very quick little exercises you can do that bring your focus right to a certain point. So whenever you're like stressed, life is happening, you can do this and it'll basically bring your focus right to a point. Then you essentially, if you can think about like if you're in reverse, in order to get your car going forward, I have to get to neutral, then I have to go to positive, right? So if reverse represents my stress, my anxiety, something happens, I get a text and email that I wasn't ready for, I'm stressed. I'm probably not going to make some good decisions with my brain going nuts. Let me get to neutral first. And so then I can then shift into positive, and positive they call the sage perspective. And there's a couple different things that we can talk about with that regard. Yet the PQ reps, they get you to neutral. And so one of the things you can like literally rub your fingers together and feel the texture of your fingerprints, right? Just kind of focuses you up.
Ground you.
Kind of ground you, right? My favorite one is doing a little breathing technique, right? Just in and out, kind of like box breathing. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Another really cool one I like to do is listen to the sound farthest away from me. So like I'll literally try to listen to like traffic. I'll listen to like wind, like down the road, and I'll do it for about 10 seconds. And then you kind of forget a little bit about like, what was the thing that was stressing me out? And you're like, all right, what was it again? Oh yeah, I just got that email. Okay, got it. Let's get this going. Right. Yeah. And so then you can kind of shift into what they call the sage perspective, where every event can be turned into a gift or an opportunity. And I like to call it 10% thinking. What's the 10% that can help me right now? Okay. And so you focus on that. That typically helps you kind of get through those moments a little bit quicker.
But there is so many little things into this. Like I just like can't wrap my brain around how you brought all of this together.
It was years of me feeling like a loser. That's honestly, it's kind of like how I kind of like understood all of this. Literally, I just was, I just kind of stopped. I stopped going out in like my early 20s and like on like Fridays, and I just started learning all this stuff and reading and taking courses. And I just kind of, I wouldn't say I became obsessed. I just thought it was worth doing. Like I just thought it was like, it was important to do. And so I just kind of fell in love with it.
I love that because I feel like it's one thing you just have to have a belief and a passion for what you do. And I can tell that you do.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you are a beautiful human being inside and out. And
he's adorable.
We're so grateful.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
We're so grateful we got to speak with you. I know Sam is, and I am too, obviously. Yeah.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for your time today.
He literally,
and all that you do for everyone. Yeah.
He literally lifted my soul a little bit last Monday. Right. I needed this. Thank you.
That. Okay.
Well, good. Well, you have my email, and I think you might even have my phone number. Shoot me a text if you ever just need to talk about life or anything. I'm definitely down to do that.
That is very
We're
sweet.
now besties. Feel free to reach out to us. But thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, DJ.
Thank you, Melissa.
Did you like the episode that you heard today? Great. Share it with a friend and don't forget to rate and review.